Z890 is here, or at least kind of. So we've got some motherboards here. Today we can essentially lift the lid on what's going on, what's new, that kind of thing, but we cannot show any performance figures whatsoever. That instead you'll have to wait a little bit longer until the 24th of October, where we can lift the lid on the new Core Ultra series, so the U5, U7 and U9. A little bit of a new naming structure. But I want to talk about the motherboards because we've actually got some pretty cool stuff here.
I'm never going to be an esports gamer. I never get any kills.
I wouldn't be so sure of that.
Is that Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com?
Yes, my son. It is me, Andy Raffel from eTeknix.com.
What are you doing here?
I'm here to bestow upon you a gift that will transform you into a true gamer. With a 24.5-inch Full HD screen, 240Hz refresh rate, 0.5 millisecond response time, AMD FreeSync Premium, and height adjustability, you'll be gaming in the big leagues in no time.
Thank you.
No problem, my son. Why don't you check out the link in the description below to find out more.
As you can see, we've got 4 boxes. These two are kind of like a media kit, so you're never ever going to be able to buy these. But it's always interesting kind of seeing how brands do things a little bit differently and what they actually want to send us, because there's more than just a motherboard in each of these boxes. And then we've got 2 more motherboards there. So I want to start with this one because it is the biggest. We can get it out of the way. So if I sort of position this one down and take these 2 over here, it just frees up a little bit of room where we can get to this in a little bit more detail. So this is from Asus, if you hadn't sort of already guessed. It's quite a nice little box. I mean, you've probably seen, and you can actually see it up here, we have had some pretty unique kind of, I guess, media kit boxes in the past. So my favorite is still the MEG sort of chest, I guess, or the Corsair, which is in the Pelican case. But this is cool nonetheless. It's obviously got Asus logo branding and stuff on there for those who dare, and it's got these little straps on the side as well. So let's get straight into it, take these off and see exactly what we get included. These boxes are always kind of good because, you know, it does give us this nice little presentation, but sadly things always seem to get damaged. We've had ones from AMD in the past where it's got damaged, and it's just always the case, and it's quite annoying really. But let's quickly go through what we get. So there's some Velcro cable ties for some weird reason, so we get them included. We get a motherboard and a cooler as well. So let's take the motherboard out and put it to one side, because I do want to talk through the motherboard. That's kind of the whole reason behind this video. A little bit of an unboxing first preview kind of look. I won't go through sort of the other stuff in too much detail because the main thing is going to be about the motherboard. So in here we've got the Ryujin 360 ARGB Extreme. So these have been out for quite a while now. It's not kind of Asus's first foray into doing liquid cooling or anything like that, but this is just the new version, which is obviously going to support for the latest socket. So yeah, we've got support here, LGA 1851. Obviously it does have support for AM5 as well. Magnetic daisy chainable fans, ARGB Gen 2. It's powered by Asus, 6-year warranty. So yeah, it's just an improved version of sort of what we've already seen to be able to handle, you know, the latest processors. Though talking about that, and I think I can get away with saying this, the new processors, the big kind of thing and the big push and the big focus is going to be on kind of power efficiency as opposed to pure performance. A bit like AMD did, but I think Intel are actually telling people that that's what they're doing, which is kind of where AMD went wrong and why people were expecting these huge uplifts in performance, especially when they heard about 16% IPC improvement, whereas Intel have taken it kind of ever so slightly different. Does this come out? Nope, that doesn't come out. So instead, this kind of slides out. And again, the idea is admirable, but it's quite a tight fit. But we got there in the end, and that looks like everything that we've actually got included with this. So inside, it's not uncommon to see brands like Asus, MSI and things like that team up with a memory manufacturer. So we do get some Kingston Fury. This is, I believe, CU DIMMs. Yep, so it's the Kingston Fury Renegade CU DIMM DDR5, which means that we have got faster speeds, a new kind of technology to a degree in terms of how things are done. These are, by the looks of it, I think they're 24 gig modules. If you've ever had Kingston memory, you'll always understand that it's not the easiest to read their model numbers like some other brands where you can clearly see the speed, the capacity and things like that. But the actual model number for anyone who does care is KF582C40RS TOMAHAWK-24ES. So just trying to decipher that, it looks like it is a 24 gig module. So we've got a 48 gig kit here, and it looks like it's 8200 CAS latency 40. So we'll probably actually be using these to do all of our testing on Z890. Now that to one side, we also get the ROG RG07 Performance Thermal Paste Kit. I do like the fact that they put the word performance on there. But yeah, thermal paste. So again, we're probably going to end up sticking with our usual, which is Noctua. So yeah, that's basically it for the kit. And this is kind of my first opportunity to actually look at this stuff. But you know, always nice to get these added extras and things like that. So the real reason that you're here is all about the motherboard. So this is the ROG Maximus Z890 Hero. But yeah, this is the board itself. So looking at the front of the box, obviously it does highlight some of the main features. So AI, of course, because everything is AI at the moment. Support for the new Intel Core Ultra, Z890 chipset, Thunderbolt logos, DDR5, LGA 1851. So we have got a new socket. So sadly, you won't be able to use 14th gen or anything on there. And Intel, I don't believe, have told us what the longevity of that socket's going to be, unlike what we see with AMD when they promise so many years. PCI Express 5.0, Wi-Fi 7, Dolby Atmos, all that kind of good stuff. Now, around the back, we get our kind of first view of what the motherboard itself is going to look like. Typical kind of Hero. They've taken it, you know, a little bit further in terms of the RGB and the branding. But overall, the Hero boards are always kind of really, really good looking. So we do have advanced AI PC ready. Obviously, they do have their own features for AI in terms of essentially doing different things to try and get the most performance and everything out of your system. Nitro Path DRAM technology. So I believe that they have changed the way that the traces actually go to the memory slots. So that does mean that you're going to get kind of less latency, faster throughput, all that kind of stuff. We've also got the logo on there that I said about, and then plenty of M.2 slots. Now, when I say plenty, it does actually say 6 M.2 slots and 1 slim SAS slot. So yeah, pretty extreme. And then we get all the kind of key, you know, specs and everything, and a view of the rear I/O, which looks pretty plentiful. We can see there's Thunderbolt and everything on there as well. But let's have a little look inside. So opens like a typical ROG box, just like you'd expect. If we take this off, then we get our first view of the motherboard. Now I'm going to put that to one side because I'd rather talk about the accessories first and kind of what you get in terms of that, and then we can move on to the motherboard and kind of go through all of the new features that it may have, that kind of thing. So typical ROG fashion, we get a bunch of stickers, something to do with Asus web storage. We get a manual, which seems to have had a bit of a revamp in terms of, you know, colors and the way that it's all kind of laid out and everything, which is quite nice. And we get this full view of kind of what the board looks like, which I actually really, really like. Notice this a lot with motherboard manufacturers. They're trying to make things as easy as possible for the builder. So yeah, really nice to see that. We have a little card in here. ROG is your all access pass to gaming paradise. So you can go onto a website, scratch off the code and get some benefits and good stuff from that. Then under here, we have our Wi-Fi antennas, because obviously this does have Wi-Fi 7. So that's at your disposal. We get our little connector, and you're going to have to forgive me because some people call it a G connector, some people call it a Q connector. I'm pretty sure Asus call it a G connector. So yeah, you get one of them to make front panel headers a lot easier. We get a bottle opener, and that is full on metal. So, you know, have a beer while you're gaming. We get our addressable RGB extension cable, so the 3-pin RGB cable. We have the little Q slide connector. Again, Asus trying to make things as easy as possible. So we've got the Q slide connector in there. We've got another one for our M.2s. We've got 4 SATA cables, of which 2 are right angled. We've got some, they look like little, yeah, rubber pads, which is obviously going to protect probably the M.2s. So we've got a couple of them, a few of them actually. We get our little Q latch system for the M.2 as well. Again, trying to make things as easy as possible when installing your M.2 drives. We get another one of those pads and another one of those pads. Obviously, there is a lot of M.2s on here. And then on top of that, we get another one. So yeah, I think there's 6 in total if my maths is any good. We get a little thermal pad for the M.2 22110. So yeah, little thermal pad there for that. And another Q slide connector. And then in here, we have the Asus fan holder. So I'm guessing there is a fan on here somewhere, or probably more than likely, just based on the picture, it's got it next to the memory slot. So we're probably going to find that you can put your own fan on there. I'm not sure how based on the spacing, but yeah. Okay, so that's actually going to screw down onto the board and then the fan's going to go on there. I'm guessing it's just held on by one screw. Okay, so this is a motherboard. I'm going to try and hold it up, but it is very, very heavy because it has got this huge armor on the back. I mean, this is one of the heaviest boards I've ever felt. And, you know, we've had like eATX Godlight boards from MSI and other boards from sort of Gigabyte in terms of the Extreme series and even Asus. But this is very, very heavy. There is a lot of heatsink on here. So, board itself is pretty stealthy overall, but obviously once it is turned on, you're going to get the ROG logo on this kind of mirrored bit, which I have already got fingerprints all over. Maximus branding on here, Hero branding on there. So with the M.2, very much like we saw on X870, they have changed things ever so slightly. So on this one, you just pull this sort of latch down and pull it up. Thermal pads on there. You've got the little Q-slide connector for sort of different size drives. So if you're not using 2280, and this actually does support the longer drives, so 22110. Who knows? Maybe that means that we're going to get, you know, faster, bigger, larger capacity drives in the future. And then you just put that back into there, push it down, latch over, and that's locked into place. So really, really simple in terms of how that's done. That is PCI Express 5.0. Under here, you have got a lot more slots. So there's actually 3 slots here and then another 2 over this side. So everything's covered by this kind of large heatsink area. Now, from what I remember, that one's 5.0, then we have a 4.0, 2 more 5.0s, and then 2 more 4.0s down here as well. So 6 M.2 slots in total, and 3 of them are PCI Express 5.0. Talking about PCI Express 5.0, obviously we've got the X16 slot at the top. We do have another X16 slot down here, but it only has physical pins for X4, and then we've got our little X1 slot as well. Storage. Along with the M.2s, we have got 4 SATA ports, and then we've got our slim SAS port, which means you can expand out into even more ports. Memory speed support, I think official of what Intel's saying is 6400 megahertz, but obviously you can go a lot further through XMP or manual overclocking. So with the kit that we've got, 8200 megahertz, we're probably going to be using that. I'm trying to get this running as fast as physically possible. They've done a lot in terms of the way that the processors sort of have better memory support and things like that. In terms of power delivery, we have got 2 Procool 2 connectors up here. And in terms of the VRMs, I mean, I can try and count them, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27. Yeah, really I need to take off the heat sinks to actually see if there is a MOSFET for every single choke that's on here. Sometimes you can get away with counting or sort of roughly, but I'm going to hazard a guess that these are probably going to be about 110 amp phases. They are going to be, you know, pretty damn extreme. No view of the actual controller. Generally with Asus, they normally put the controller on the back. So we'll probably find there's a controller. It does look like I can see one just through the shielding here, underneath here. But when we do our kind of full review and that, we'll strip it down, find out exactly what's on there, whether it's you know, Alpha and Omega, whether it's you know, Vishay, which it probably is with the Asus. They normally do use Vishay SIC 629 or 650 VRM. So we will kind of find out all of that. It's probably something like a 20 or 22 phase plus 2 maybe. But like I say, we will confirm that when we actually come to it. Because this is a high-end board, you are going to have a few functions for overclocking. So we have got our little debug LED up here. We have got a power button just there, and then a flex key button, which generally is defaulted to reset, but obviously we can do, you know, change that to whatever we want within the BIOS. Other features on here, we have got twin USB Type-C. We've got a 24-pin as well as an 8-pin PCI Express connector for extra power as well. And then our front panel, we have HD audio. We've got switches for PCI Express, plenty of RGB, addressable RGB, plenty of fan headers, USB 3.1 here as well as over here as well. USB, legacy USB down here. We have also got a retry button. So for anyone who's kind of needed to troubleshoot and that, we've got a little reset button down here. And then our front panel. And then even along the top, we've got 4 PWM fan connectors there as well. So a pretty plentiful board. Plenty of features on there, plenty of cooling. I mean, just from the side, you can see how thick this actual heatsink is. And that, by the looks of it, has a heat pipe that runs all the way through, all the way down this one, and then through this heatsink, which sits next to the M.2, which makes sense because PCI Express 5.0 obviously does get very, very warm. So we've got the large heatsink there, and then the CPU socket trying to give as much power as physically possible, even though these boards are aimed at, power efficiency. Other than that, talking about the rear I/O, pretty plentiful for a board like this. So we have got 2.5G Ethernet, 5G Ethernet. Probably would have liked to have seen maybe 10 GBE on here, but for, I guess, the average user, this is more than enough. Asus probably will have like a ProArt board or something like that, where they will be able to, put 10 GB in there through a Quantia or Marvell or someone like that. We've got our clear CMOS button. We've got our reset BIOS button. We've got 10G USB, 10G USB, 5G USB here, another 10G in Type C, 10G there, the BIOS one, which, it's red, so it's going to be 10G as well. Then we've got our two Thunderbolt ports here for, unadulterated blistering speed. Wi-Fi 7 connectors, and these are the new Q connectors, I think they're called, with the quick release. Then we've got our audio jacks and our SV diff. So yeah, that's probably a lot longer than I wanted to spend on this board because we have got another 3 boards to go, but that's the Asus board done. So next up, Z890 AORUS Elite Wi-Fi 7. So this is obviously Gigabyte, or their sub-brand AORUS. On the front, not really too much to talk about. LGA 1851, PCI Express 5, DDR5 support, Core Ultra, and the AORUS logo on there. Around the rear, we get our first view of the board. Obviously not as high-end as something like the Asus board that we just looked at, but tells us that we've got 16+1+2 phases, digital VRM and VRM thermal armor. So it's actually 8+8 phases parallel in a power design. So they're basically teaming them up. DIY friendly design, Wi-Fi 7 and Wi-Fi easy plug. Then the ultra durable PCI Express UD slot X, which is obviously extra support for your graphics card. So opening this up, again, putting the board off to one side and seeing what we get. I'm not expecting the accessories to be as plentiful. So we have got our Wi-Fi antenna in there with the sort of dual plug on it for quick release. Multilingual installation guide. We've got 2 SATA cables on this one. One of them's right angled. Then we've got our G connector, which is, so I think it was Q connector on the other one. So yeah, G connector for front panel, and then just a little bit more literature. So nice and easy going through that one. In terms of the board itself, inside its anti-static bag, nicely protected. If we open it up, and I apologize for the noise on camera because I know it's not going to sound great with anti-static bags, but this is the board itself. So plenty of armor still, even for, I guess, what you could class as a mid-range board. Nothing on the rear in terms of armor apart from this kind of support brace there for the ultra durable PCI Express armor. But other than that, it's quite nice that we've still got some sort of logos and artwork on the back of the board. It just kind of, I don't know, makes it look a bit more premium, even if it's, not necessarily aimed at the premium market. So plenty of heat sinks up here, sort of going down and going round. It does look like there's a heat pipe in there as well. As I say, the VRM solution for this for a mid-range board is actually pretty decent. In terms of the controller, I don't think it's on the rear of this one, unless it's that one there, which I don't believe it is. Nope, so the VRM controller is actually going to be somewhere underneath this heatsink, probably more than likely around here, and then there's another one down there for the miscellaneous. Other than that, we've got obviously 4 memory slots again, supporting these blistering fast speeds thanks to the new memory standard CU-DIMM. 24-pin power connector. We've got plenty of sort of fan headers. We've got 2 up here, 1 down here. There's another 2 down there. So yeah, enough for kind of, a modest system. In terms of M.2s, we have got a quick release on here. So this one, you literally pull that across and then that opens like that. So this is going to be PCI Express Gen 5. If we get that back into place, which is always easier said than done, especially when this is the first kind of time looking at the board and it has got the plastic on there as well. So trying to get it in, open that up, and that should lock in place. Underneath here, we've got exactly the same with a quick release, 3 slots under there. So they look like they're actually going to be Gen 4. So I think we've only actually got 1 Gen 5 on this board, which is the top one. And then 3 more, which are Gen 4, which generally is going to be enough for most people. Even gamers and things like that, aren't really going to be utilizing Gen 5 as much as maybe what they think they will. In terms of the X16 slot, you can see it's got this really kind of beefy armor on there, which is really nice. Has got a little button there, so when it's locked into place using the latch, you press that and it just pulls down. And I've just sort of seen from every generation of board, not just from Gigabyte, but from other brands as well, they've kind of refined the whole process of this. Now it's got a metal bar instead of kind of a piece of like metal, almost like rope. But yeah, really nice to see that. We've got our amp-up audio as well. We've got 2 more X16 slots, but looking at it, the pins are only physical up to X4. So obviously we are going to be limited by bandwidth because most of it's going to be going to the PCI Express 5.0 slot. In terms of extra storage, we have got 4 SATA ports on here. We've got USB, we've got a HDMI on here as well, and we've got a Type-C. Front panel headers down here, USB legacy down here, HD audio, and then plenty of RGB, including 4-pin and then addressable here as well. And the really cool connector that we actually use, because we have the cable for it, allows you to plug this into a power bank, light it up without actually turning it all on. And then we've got our chipset heatsink over here. So yeah, a pretty decent board, sort of considering it's going to be aimed at, let's say, the more budget conscious kind of mid-range market. And then when we look around at the I/O, around here, it looks like we have legacy USB maybe here, USB 2.0. We've got a DisplayPort connector, 3.2, so it's going to be Gen 2. We've got 2 of those ports. We have got USB-C through Thunderbolt down here, USB 3.2. So these actually might be Gen 1 and these are Gen 2. I'd have to double check, but just kind of, you know, based on the colors and things like that. We've also got 2.5G Ethernet, and then we've got our quick connector for our Wi-Fi, and then our audio including SPDIF out. So yeah, pretty decent board. Looking forward to sort of this one. I know it's a sort of that range in the market where, you know, people are actually going to buy a board. While higher end boards are obviously very glamorous in terms of what they offer, they're not going to sell in sheer volume because of the price of them. And no, I don't actually have any prices on any of these boards as of yet. Okay, so next up, Z890 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. This is actually one of the ones that I'm really looking forward to because the Tomahawk is one of my favorite ranges of boards purely because they offer quite a lot of features for a very, very reasonable price. Again, I don't have pricing on these at the moment, but it's going to be interesting to kind of see where it comes in at based on what we've seen on other Tomahawk boards with other chipsets. So the board, in terms of the box, is pretty simple, not really much going on. A couple of kind of key features down here with 5G Ethernet, Wi-Fi 7, and support for Core Ultra as well as Thunderbolt. But that's about it. As we move it around to the back, Z890 Tomahawk Wi-Fi gives us some information on the VRMs, the Lightning Gen 5, Thunderbolt 4, Wi-Fi 7, Bluetooth 5.4, easy PCIe release, easy M.2 Shield Frozer 2, quadruple M.2 connectors, 5G LAN, and then obviously the key specs and a view of the rear I/O. So yeah, looks pretty plentiful. Lots of kind of advertising on there. And as we open it up, again, if we put the board off to one side just for a minute. And the really cool thing with this is we actually went to MSI's factory in China and saw this exact board, not this exact one, but Tomahawks being made, which is pretty damn cool. So we get a little key for adjusting the M.2 slots. So if you are using different size drives and things like that, we have a USB because, you know, long gone are the days for driver discs and things like that. USB is the way forward. We have a USB 2 to, I think that's actually USB to Type-C. No, I know what this is. So this is actually a cable for MSI's new coolers, which integrate RGB and PWM, I believe, into one connector. I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's what they told us it is. Obviously new technology, so don't take my word on it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it's for. One cable to make things a lot easier. We also get a front panel cable. So some brands do the whole just little G connector or Q connector. MSI just kind of extend it, which I do actually think I prefer because it just gives you that extra bit of length on there and allows you to just plonk it on without doing each individual. We also get a little M.2 screw as well for, obviously, if you're not using the Q release features. Then we've got 2 SATA cables, one of them being right angled. A little shout out how to enter to win some stuff, I think. Quick installation guide, European Union regulatory notices, and some stickers for kind of labeling things up, as well as another M.2 connector. So pretty sort of decent for, again, what's classed as a mid-range board. And then in here, I'm guessing, as the name would suggest, it is a Tomahawk Wi-Fi. So in here is going to be your Wi-Fi antenna, which will have, I believe, the quick release connectors on there as well. So putting that off to one side, grabbing the board and having a little look at what's on offer. And the color scheme has changed a little bit from kind of Tomahawk boards that you're maybe used to. There's a lot more green on it, which I kind of like. It does make it stand out a little bit. It's not too over the top, but yeah, kind of cool nonetheless. So in terms of heat sinks on this, they are a little bit smaller. Still pretty large for what they are, but yeah, a little bit smaller. No heatsink on the back, as you'd expect from sort of a more budget conscious kind of mid-range board. But overall, there's a lot of heat sinks, a lot of cooling going on in terms of over the M.2 slots, over the PCH, and then around the VRMs as well. So don't know the full information on the VRMs. And on this one, again, there's no PWM controller on the back, so it is going to be on the front, which is quite different to how AMD did it. We did see a lot of PWM controllers for the VRMs on the rear of the board. 4 memory slots on there, again, blistering fast speeds, 24 pin. Do have a debug LED on here as well, which is really cool for like a more budget conscious kind of board in terms of pricing. The 8-pin connectors, instead of being up here, we actually have a 4-pin PWM connector for your fans. We actually have them up here, which kind of makes a little bit more sense. And we normally see that on more extreme boards where they are over towards this corner. There's no power and reset buttons or anything like that in terms of troubleshooting. You just instead have a debug LED. That's about as far as it goes in terms of troubleshooting. There is another power connector down here, which is obviously going to be for powering or giving extra power to the PCI Express slots in terms of an 8-pin PCI Express. Plenty more PWM connectors, addressable RGB, front panel, legacy USB, looks like a TPM connector, more addressable RGB, HD audio and normal RGB as well, and then more PWM connectors up here. We've also got the JAF connector, which is, I believe, MSI's RGB proprietary connector, which splits out. USB 3, USB Type-C, 4 SATA ports, pretty plentiful overall. Now, in terms of the PCI Express slot, you know when I said people are refining brands, are refining things a little bit more. So you have this little slot here, but you have a little button and it's got a little notifier as to if it's locked or unlocked. So you can see when you press that, this actually moves back and forth. So yeah, it allows it to sort of tell you if it's locked or unlocked. Locked, unlocked. A bit like a toilet door, as you'd see in a public toilet. That's probably the only time I'm ever going to refer to it as that. Now, in terms of M.2s, we have got one connector up here, which has got a little latch on the side. You take that off and away it comes. That's going to be our PCI Express 5.0. And then underneath here, and I haven't actually checked, but I'm guessing it's going to be PCI Express 4.0. So storage, we have one 5.0 X4 128 gigabit per second slot, and then 3 PCI Express 4.0 at 64 gigabits per second, which again is more than enough for most people. So for some weird reason though, this one's actually screwed down, which is going to be probably 2 connectors under there, or maybe, no, there's one M.2 under here, but it is screwed down, so it's not quick release. But then the 2 slots down here have that same latch system, and you open that up and then you've got, yeah, one here, one there. I would have liked to have maybe seen that with the same kind of, Q latch system. But yeah, it is what it is. Goes on nice and easy as well, and job done. In terms of the I/O on this one, again, pretty plentiful for a board that's aimed at that sort of market. So we do have HDMI. We've got dual Thunderbolt on here, USB-C 10 gigabit per second in a Type-C and Type-A's. We've got 3 of them, as well as the one specific for the flash BIOS, which the button's just there. Clear CMOS button as well. USB 5 gigabit per second here and here. 5G Ethernet, Wi-Fi 7 connectors, and a HD audio and SP diff. For a board that is generally regarded as really affordable, this is actually pretty damn plentiful. So it's going to be interesting to see kind of, the performance and everything on this to make sure it can keep up with the big boys. Now, speaking of the big boys, that leads me on to the next one. Okay, so last one is another press kit, and this is from MSI and forms part of their MEG series. So we have actually already opened this one up. So yeah, I won't show you this side because it is a bit of, yeah, no, I will. So we put that down like that. And then inside is this kind of quite fancy box. We put that off to one side and move this out of the way without breaking it. Kind of annoying because we're never going to see that again. But this, to be fair, still looks pretty damn amazing. So MEG, MSI Enthusiast Gaming. It's got the little material down there as well. Overpower with innovation, MSI logo. Is there anything on the other side? yeah, overpower with innovation. So pretty cool overall. This is going to look really nice when we put it on the set as well. Taking that off, and this is what we got inside. So everything is compartmentalized. So we do get a little Intel, MSI and Kingston Fury logos on here. 3 industry leading brands team up to deliver peak performance across your entire system. Intel's powerful processors, Kingston's fast memory and MSI's durable motherboards ensure cutting edge speed and reliability. A little bit of information on the MEG, MPG and MAG series. Dear editor, you can download our review guide along with some of the assets here, little QR code. So yeah, pretty cool. Inside, where do we start? This is basically what it looks like. So we've got our board, which we'll get to probably last, something from Intel, wonder what it could be. And then a cooler. So up here, we've got the MAG Core Liquid i360, which we're probably going to be using that because you can never have enough 360mm AIOs, but we'll probably be using that for our testing of the processors, along with the Z890 Ace motherboard, which is here, because it is pretty damn high end. Now, let's move that out. And there's more stuff below it. So below here, we do get the MAG Core Liquid i360 LGA 1851 offset kit enhancer. So all it does is just slightly offsets on the CPU socket and the CPU itself, which based on what MSI has actually told us about it, it should in theory mean that the cooler sits more on the kind of hotter spot of the processor itself. So maybe we'll do some testing with that and sort of see what the differences are between normal placement and then offset placement. Then we have a bit of deja vu, Kingston Fury. I'm guessing this is exactly the same kit. So Renegade DDR5 CU DIMM, and it is 8200 CAS latency 48 gig kit. So yeah, we've actually got 2 of these kits now, which should actually make testing a little bit easier because you might be able to do 2 lots of tests at the same time on different processors and things like that. So really nice to see that. Let's move this to one side so we've got a bit more room for kind of what's going on here. So motherboard wise, MEG Z890 Ace motherboard. Did see this in China when we went to MSI's factory, but we get a full kind of view of the board. Obviously Thunderbolt, Ultra support for the new Core Ultra, 10 GBE, Wi-Fi 7, Core Ultra. Yeah. Around the back, we have Ultra Power. So this has got a 24 duet rail power system, 110 amp SPS, so smart power stages, and OC engine as well. Don't know how it's actually split. Probably going to be like, yeah, it might actually be 24 plus 2 plus 1, something like that. We will get all the information on VRMs on all these boards when we come to actually doing the reviews. Ultra Connect, so plenty of connectivity options, and it is plenty when I tell you that. Full view of the board, DIY friendly design, sort of breakdown of the board once all the coolers have come off, and then the rear I/O and all of the specs. So let's have a little look inside and see what's going on. So again, we'll take the motherboard out and put it to one side, and then we've got this other little box here. So inside this box, there's an abundance of stuff. So we have got an addressable extension cable. We have got a thermistor probe, so for monitoring temperatures and things like that. We've got the extension for the front panel headers. We've got 2 SATA ports. One of them is right angled. SATA connectors, sorry, not SATA ports. We have another thermistor cable. We've got a standard RGB Y splitter cable, so not addressable. Another 2 SATA cables, again, one is right angled. And then we've got that cable that I spoke about, which is kind of proprietary, but I do like the idea of it, the fact that it does your RGB and your PWM on your MSI cooler all in sort of one cable. I mean, technically it's 3 cables, but yeah, it's together. We get some literature as well, some stickers, all that kind of stuff. Kind of a big onus on scanning QR codes on this as well. And then we've got our Wi-Fi 7 antennas in there. And then a few little bits and bobs. So we have got M.2 screw and mount, another one there. And then we've got the little key to obviously install them. And then just tucked away in here is our MSI USB, which I think it's either 16, 32 or 64, one of the 3, which I know doesn't help you guys, but it's a decent size USB. It's USB 3 as well. So you're going to get fast speed. So even if you use it to install your drivers and then never use it again, happy days because you've managed to bag yourself a USB. So putting that off to one side and having a look at the board. Again, this is a fairly heavy board, and the reason behind it being heavy is the fact that it has got a backplate on there. So with this, actually need to put that back on. Right, so with this, we have got a pretty unique design. The Ace has always been kind of, it's always had that Ace up its sleeve, if you know what I mean. Black and gold. I was never a fan when I heard Ace motherboards were going to be like black and gold. I was like, oh, gold on a motherboard. But it does it really kind of subtly. It's not completely in your face gold. It's, you know, quite subtle, but it kind of works as well. Now, there is quite a lot of heatsink on here, considering it is a high-end board. So again, quite a lot of thickness here. That does go around into a heat pipe, which goes underneath the rear I/O. And then that looks like it further extends into this bit here. There is also a lot of heatsink on the actual M.2s themselves. So this one, push and lift, that just pulls off nice and easy. Has also got a little connector on there, a bit like a MagSafe connector that we see on sort of, you know, MacBooks and things like that. That is so that this lights up the RGB. So it has actually got an RGB connector there. And then, unlike other boards, which some have like screws on and that, everything comes off. So that then unveils our other M.2s. Now, I'm not actually sure what this is in terms of PCI Express 5.0, so I'm probably best off looking at the box and figuring out that we have, yeah, so 1 Gen 5 and then 4 Gen 4s. So this is going to be a Gen 5 at the top, and then we've got 4 more Gen 4s on here as well. So, you know, still plenty enough for most people. Then we've got a chipset heatsink down here as well, which you can unscrew from the other side, but it does mean taking off the whole of the black and gold armor that you're never ever going to see, but still nice to have. In terms of other kind of storage, we have got 4 more SATA ports here. We've got USB 3, USB Type-C. We've got an easy connector for the JFA2, debug LED, power and reset's actually down here, which I've always found, I guess, a little bit weird that the debug's up there, but the power and reset's down here. But it's still nice to have them regardless. In terms of power, we have got our 24 pin. We've got a 6-pin PCI Express, so a little bit less than what we saw on the other board, which had an 8 pin. We have got our 2 8 pins up here. Again, slightly different positioning, and that's made way for a 4-pin PWM connector there for a system fan, which makes sense when you think about having a fan at the rear of your case. We have got plenty of other fan connectors as well. One here, here, here. Addressable RGB. We've got addressable RGB front panel. More fan headers down here, so we've actually got some 4 pins and a 3-pin. We've got another 4-pin, another 4-pin, HD audio, legacy USB, plenty of connectors on this board for kind of, well, pretty much anything and everything. Again, it's got that little latch system, so lock, unlock, and you can just see in there, I don't know if the camera will actually pick this up, but just in there is a little padlock. So it shows you whether it's padlocked or an open padlock. So in terms of PCI Express, we have got armoured on this X16 slot, which is Gen 5, and we've got armour on the other 2 as well. This has got physical pins up to X8, and so has this one, but I'm guessing they're going to share the bandwidth if you are going to be using all 3 slots. In terms of the VRMs, you know it's going to be extensive. We can't actually see the controller or anything, but again, when we strip it down and do a full review on it, we will have the information on the phases, which they do sometimes mix it up a little bit at MSI, but it wouldn't surprise me if they're using Renesys controllers and things like that. Now, in terms of the rear I/O, this is where things get really interesting on this board because it is absolutely stacked. They have not wasted one bit of space on this. So we have got USB 10 GBE, USB, 10G here, and here in terms of Type A. We've got HDMI, we've got dual Thunderbolt on there as well, USB Type-C 10G. We've got, this is quite interesting actually, we've got a flash BIOS button, a clear CMOS button, and then a smart button. You can go into the BIOS, of which MSI has completely revamped their BIOS, and you can change this button to do a variety of different functions and features, whether it be reset or powering on the computer or whatever you want really. 10 GB Ethernet, we've got USB 10G Type A and Type C, and more USB 10Gs here. Wi-Fi 7 with the quick connectors, SPDIF, and then our HD audio. So I don't think you're going to run out of USB on this one. Board to one side, we have this, which is Intel branded. Whatever could it be? Let's open this up and see. I sound like I'm a kid's like TV presenter. What could it be? Let's find out and see. Thank you. Let me know if you get that reference. Put it in the comments. So inside here, is our Ultra 9, Core Ultra 9 285K. So this is essentially the replacement for the i9 14900K, for instance. And then it says, use the insertion/removal tool to transfer the CPU to the motherboard socket. Ensure the triangular arrow on the CPU aligns with the arrow or on the tool or retention plate. So I'm guessing there's a, that's cool. It's actually 3D printed. So you can, I don't know how, but there we go. Now don't drop it on camera, Andy. So yeah, you've basically got your CPU socket, your CPU there, and then I'm guessing you just put it in, pull that and let go. So yeah, novel little sort of design, I guess. Quite interesting. Probably never going to use it, but thank you regardless. And this is our first view of the processor. So this is a Core Ultra 9. We have got the Ultra 7 and the Ultra 5 as well. I don't want to give too much kind of away behind this in terms of, you know, performance and stuff like that, because I mean, we haven't tested it yet, but we have been on calls with Intel and sort of been given indications as to what it actually means. And I will warn you now, it's not all about performance. This is all about power efficiency. Much like we saw with Lunar Lake on the laptops, this has just been transferred over to desktop through Arrow Lake, or Arrow Lake S if you want to be technical. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Like I say, you got to wait until the 24th, where we will have performance on all these boards as well as all the processors as well. And that's going to, I think, wrap it up for this one. There's nothing else to show you. It's been quite a long video, so let's just wrap it up now. Thank you for tuning in. If you like the video, remember to give us a like and a subscribe. And if you love what we do, remember you can help support us over on Patreon, where you'll get access to exclusive behind the scenes content, access to a special area on our Discord, bi-weekly game nights, and so much more. And obviously it helps support the channel like you wouldn't believe. The link for all that good stuff is down below. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you on the 24th, if not before. Cheers, guys. See you later. Bye-bye.